Okay, so what I wanted to do here was take a look at CachyOS, I believe is the name of it. Um, I've never used this distribution before, so I thought I'd kind of give it a first look, for me anyway. It's been around, I believe, a little while. I've seen a lot of people talking about it. If I am remembering correctly, yeah, it's based on Arch Linux. Usually I don't use like Arch-based distributions. If I'm going to use Arch, I usually just use it neat. So I use a vanilla Arch if I'm going to use Arch. But that doesn't mean anything's wrong with a Arch-based distribution. There's plenty of great ones out there, I'm sure. But this is one I've never actually used, but I've heard a lot of people talking about it. It seems to have a reputation, and they even claim that it is blazingly fast. I believe they have a custom kernel they use themselves to add a lot of, I don't know, customization to the kernel to create a supposedly faster system. Um, so as they say here, blazing fast, customizable Linux distribution. CachyOS is designed to deliver lightning fast speeds and stability, ensuring a smooth and enjoyable computing experience every time you use it, whether you're a seasoned Linux user or just starting out. CachyOS is ideal choice for those looking for a powerful, customizable, and blazingly fast operating system. So I'm going to download this ISO and we're going to boot it up and just see what it looks like with the install and then just browsing around the system just to give it a shot. Again, I've never used it before, never tried it before, never even downloaded the ISO before. So let's go ahead and download it and we will give it a shot. And I will be right back when I get this thing downloaded and booted up. Okay, so I clicked the download and it looks like you choose. Okay, so they're saying that you can choose the edition in the installer. Again, we'll see that here in just a minute when I boot it up. So let me look here. Let's do it direct. Okay, so there's no actual editions. It looks like you download it, then you're going to install it. It'll probably ask you what you want to install when you install the system, like what desktop environment, things like that. Again, we'll see that here in just a second, see what that actually does. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I've downloaded the ISO and I have it booted up. I noticed when I booted the ISO, it does give you the option if you want to boot into NVIDIA kernel or drivers, so that it is compatible with, I'm assuming, the proprietary NVIDIA video cards. So if you are running NVIDIA or if you're running AMD or whatever, you can install it with that by default, which is kind of neat. Again, it booted up quick. So we're going to look at this install. Yeah, I am using a virtual machine. So I know it's not ideal for something like CachyOS using a virtual machine because of the whole point behind Cachy, at least it seemed like from what I was reading on the website, is that it is meant for like speed and for gaming. I think they even had like an edition for handhelds and things like that. So I kind of understand that this may not give the best impression of it, but it will at least let me see what the system looks like and what the installer looks like and how the system at least performs in a virtual machine. I mean, the live environment actually performs extremely smooth, so no problems there. It does use, at least the ISO that I downloaded is using KDE, but it did say that whenever you have the option to install different desktop environments. So I'll see what the installer does. I've not used it before. I'm not sure what type of installer it uses. If it uses Calamari's or its own custom or what it uses, but we're going to find out. This is the welcome screen it gives you as soon as you boot it up. And we're just going to go ahead and launch the installer and see what happens. So I clicked it, and now we're waiting. Okay, what do we hear? Choose bootloader edition. You can do Grub, System Deboot, Refined, AI SDK Refined, or Lamine. These are the bootloaders, so it's kind of interesting that it gives you which one you want to use. I know Grub pretty well, and I know System Deboot pretty well. That's the two. It looks like it wants to default to System Deboot. I kind of get that under Arch because With Grub, sometimes you have to reinstall Grub when there's an update, or else you'll get errors. I know a couple years ago there was an issue with Arch and Grub update that messed a lot of people up. You won't have that kind of problem if you use system deboot. That being said, though, I'm just used to Grub, and that's what I've always used for years, so I generally just stick with Grub. But you know what? Since it seems like it has Grub selected by default, but it says this is the default. So we're going to do system deboot because that's what it says the default is, and I kind of want to see what the default works, or how they want it set up, at least what they recommend. But it does give you the option on a bootloader, which is interesting. A lot of distributions don't give you an option. They just, whatever's default for that system is what you get. So that's kind of cool. Obviously with Arch Linux you can install any bootloader you want, but it is neat that they have that in the actual installer. So that's kind of cool. It does look like Calamares, which is the standard Linux installer, so to speak. Lots of distributions use it. So this is Calamares, I believe. Yeah, it's just standard stuff. It automatically knows where I'm from, which isn't Chicago, but it has my correct time zone already. It does English. You can do manual partitioning. I'm curious what it'll do. It wants to do Btrfs. That makes sense. Most modern systems want to use Btrfs for snapshotting, and that's just kind of very common for most systems nowadays. Again, I generally just stick with ext4, but Btrfs is slowly becoming the default for most Linux distributions. It looks like what they're wanting to do is just the standard boot and then root partition. I don't know if it's going to do a swap file, a swap partition, or if it's going to use like ZRAM. I bet it'll use ZRAM swap, but we'll see what happens. You can also encrypt the system if you want to, which, you know, I would recommend if you're doing it on a laptop or a system that a lot of people will be using or have the potential of getting stolen. And you just want that extra security of an encrypted system. This is just a virtual machine. I'm not worried about encrypting it, but a lot of people do. So that is good that they have the option to encrypt if you want to. Here it is. So here's where you get to choose what you want. Do you want Plasma, GNOME, XFCE4, BSPWM, Budgie, Cinnamon, Cosmic, which is like, I believe, still in alpha. I don't think they released a Cosmic beta yet. So that's interesting that they allow you to do that. i3, Hyperland, that's kind of neat. Kind of curious what if they have a default configuration for Hyperland, or if it's going to be just stock LMDE, LXQt, Mate, OpenBox, Qtile, Sway. That's the one I usually use on most of my systems, is Sway. Hyperland's really good too. Again, if you're into Wayland. What's that? Is that Ukui? I don't have any idea what this is. A lightweight desktop environment which consumes few resources and works with older computers. It has been developed with GTK and Qt technology, so it uses both. A visual similar to Windows 7. I have never... That's a new one for me. I don't know. I have no Wayfire. That's similar to Sway, but it's got like some different effects and things, and different graphics and transition effects and all that kind of stuff. I've never personally really used it. I think I tried a while back and never really got much, didn't have much luck with it. This one I've actually never heard of. I'll have to try that out sometime. I'm not going to do that on this video, but I may do a video on this one because I've actually never used that before. I'm assuming most people would go with Plasma. That's kind of a lot of people's default. Plasma and GNOME is kind of the two biggies. It looked like on their website that they at least seem to lean toward the Plasma desktop environment, and most people that I've seen that use CachyOS use Plasma, but you can obviously install any of these that you want. Again, I am kind of curious if they have like if they do their own configurations or if they keep it stock. So I'm having a hard time deciding which one I would want to try, but I guess we'll just go with Plasma because that's just kind of the default for most, and that's what I would recommend for anybody new to Linux or anything like that. You'd want to use Plasma, but I may go through here again if I like Cachy and try some of these other ones, make a video and see if they actually create a default configuration or if they have them stock, or because like usually with Arch Linux it's just stock. You get what is upstream. They don't really mess with it or change anything, and it is just the stock, Mate and OpenBox and stuff. There's no real configuration done to it. You got to do it all manually yourself. Okay, so what did I select? Yeah, I did Plasma. KDE. Let's see. They recommend the base Devil. Yeah, that's just the development packages. If you need extra things, that's common. What is in Cachy? Cachy browser. They have their own browser. Interesting. Okay, so they do have their own. I'm assuming they have their own repo as well. So they must have their own own applications they use. That's interesting. You can do printing support. We'll select that. Most people need a printer, right? HP. Why not? I'll just see if it does it. So that's cool. And you can install the other ones if you want to. So say you want that to be your default, I guess you can go ahead and install other ones if you really want to. Let's do Hyperland. Okay. They don't want you to do that. You've selected to kindly uncheck. Okay. I guess they don't want you to do that. Okay, then we'll have the option, but all right. So let's go ahead and just do that. My name is Colby. What name do you want to use to log in, Colby? The name of the computer. We'll just do Cachy. I'll do a very complicated password. Password is too short. I wonder if it is going to make me do a long password. Yeah, it's going to make you do I kind of hate it when they do that. I mean, I understand why, but like, I'm just testing the system. I don't need a long password. Let's do something really long and complicated. That definitely wasn't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, everything looks good. It wants to double check, make sure, because it will destroy everything. Sure, let's kill it all. I don't know how long this will take. Usually with most Arch-based distributions and Arch itself, the install is usually fairly quick as long as you have a fast mirror that you're downloading from. So it looks like it's going to run mirror updates on it and download everything. I'm assuming it's going to download things fresh from the server, so it's not going to be like downloaded and have a ton of updates once you boot into it, but we'll see. I don't think it has a because it says it's downloading, so I'm assuming it's going to pull fresh from the repos instead of installing what's on the ISO and then have to update a bunch of stuff. But I'm going to let this run and pause the video, and I'll be back as soon as it gets closer to being done. Of course, they go through the little slideshow here, kind of gives you some information as it is installing, so you can get a little bit of a taste of what the system is about. So that's kind of neat. A lot of distributions just have some random things, but they actually tell you a little bit about the system as it's installing. So that's kind of cool. I had quite a few things selected whenever I installed it, so it is going to take a bit. But here it's talking about the kernel. The default kernel is Linux CachyOS, which uses the Bohr scheduler. It is built with Clang and Thin LTO and Auto FDO propeller optimizations. The CachyOS patch set contains Cachy sauce, BBR version 3, and the latest ZSTD API, and adds support for various Asus and T2 MacBook laptops along with various handheld devices. So they do have a very optimized kernel that they use themselves. So I'm kind of curious how that's going to work. Again, it may not work real great in a virtual machine as far as getting the full use out of all these optimizations, but I am curious. I may install this on hardware and then test maybe some games and stuff and see if there's actually a difference. My main gaming distro is Bazite. Me and my wife use that for gaming mainly. My other distribution I use on this system here is Gen 2. And again, you can do a lot of customizations on your own with Gen 2 to make it a little faster. They use uncomplicated firewall by default, and it looks like it's enabled by default, so it does have a little bit of security there. Okay, the CachyOS browser is a Firefox, hardened Firefox browser, so they kind of take Firefox and then add their own system to it, or add their own, I guess, patches or customizations to Firefox, which is neat. Curious if they have an issue with the latest stuff coming out with Firefox. A lot of people are mad at Mozilla because of the I don't know what they're doing with the or what's going on with Mozilla and Firefox, with the terms of service and everything, doing some wonky stuff. I know a lot of people are getting upset about that. I haven't looked into that a whole lot, but I usually use like Brave. But Firefox is still a great system. I like the Molvad browser for Firefox as well, so and it uses Firefox as a base. But anyway, getting on a bit of a tangent, so I'm going to go ahead and restart. That didn't take too awful long, so we're just going to go ahead and restart, and I'll be back after this reboots. So here it boots in pretty quick. Even on the virtual machine here, it booted in really, really fast, so that's pretty cool. So you're greeted with the welcome screen, very similar to when you boot the ISO to install it. I'm going to change my display configuration to make it a little clearer. There we go. And you know what, let's just go ahead and go to fonts, and I want to adjust all. Let's just make everything just a little bit bigger and easier to see. I'm in my mid 40s, so usually I gotta pump these fonts up quite a bit more. Anyway, and it helps with the video. So this is it. This is it completely installed on here. You get a welcome screen, which you got to read me. I am not going to read through all this. You obviously can. The AUR talks about that. They've got their own wiki plus the Arch wiki, which is kind of cool. So that is cool. Apps and tweaks. I'm curious. System update, reinstall all packages, refresh key rings. That's pretty good for. You gotta do that in Arch Linux sometimes. Refresh your key rings. Sometimes this can take a while, but that's interesting. You can remove your orphan files. So after a while, things get kind of cluttery in Arch Linux. So it's good to have clear the packages out, clear everything out. Obviously, there's not really be anything on here because I've just installed the system, but you can have this to install all your stuff you need. Gaming packages. Curious what that is. Oh, okay. So you can install your mesas and all your gaming stuff. So that's cool. I can't really do that on this system because I'm running a virtual machine, but man, it runs pretty smooth even on a virtual machine. I mean, this is a lot smoother than some distros do. I mean, this is pretty slick. So I mean, that kernel is possibly pretty good. They got their own kernel manager. Okay, it's the 6.14 that just came out, so that's cool. You can do a hardened kernel. You can do a lot of different types of kernels here, so that's cool. That's actually really neat. That is cool. So I like their little startup app here. Actually has a lot of interesting things. You go through and install. Yeah, you can install Brave, so that's cool, and ungoogled Chrome. Oh, that's one thing I wanted to check. They had their own browser, didn't they? Let's take a look at that. Okay, and it obviously is Firefox with their own. They said they hardened it. Looks like they add uBlock Origin by default. I'm assuming they add a lot of. They got that on standard. I usually put it on strict, but okay, yeah, they kind of hardened it up a little bit. So that's interesting. I mean, it looks like this is a fork. I mean, they have their own branding on it and everything. So, I mean, that's kind of neat. I'm assuming you could probably install this on a non-CachyOS system. I don't know. I've never tried, but I'm assuming you could. If you're wanting a Firefox fork in your, because you don't like what Mozilla's doing, but you still like using Firefox, you know, the Cachy browser might be a good option for that too. So that's kind of neat. That is cool that they have the stuff automatically installed and things like that. That you block Origin for ad blocking, and they say they harden it and stuff. So I don't know how well it is as far as being secure and being privacy oriented and all that kind of thing. But it's looked like a decent browser. You can install regular old Firefox. Obviously, with this being Arch Linux, you're going to have a wealth of software to choose from. But it's neat that if you're kind of new to it, you can install things from here that you may need by default. So somebody who's not used to Arch Linux or the AUR or things like that can install things they need pretty easily from here as well. So that's kind of cool. It wants me to update. I just wanted to install Brave browser. I'm assuming it's installing from the AUR, or do they have it in their own repo? I don't know. I'm not really sure. Yeah, okay. So there we go. I'm pretty amazed by how fast the system runs in the virtual machine. So I'll have to try this out on my actual hardware. Maybe I'll do a video on it on actual hardware running games and things like that, and see if there is a difference between this and, like, say, Bazite, which runs games really well. I've for me anyway, for the games I use. So I don't do any real hardcore gaming other than just like World of Warcraft and stuff like that. So and Bazite runs good on that stuff. So that's pretty cool. I do like that. That's neat. I am curious if do they have Discover or do they not? So they don't have their own, they don't have Discover, which is KDE's application manager, but software manager. Yeah, okay, see, that's the where the icon would be for Discover, but they don't have Discover installed, so it's kind of weird that they would keep that icon there because Discover's not installed. I'm assuming because, if I'm remembering correctly, there's issues with using Discover and Arch Linux sometimes. So I guess they just have their own. See what they need to do. Yeah, they have their own package manager. They need to have, if they're going to have their own package manager, they need to remove this icon and just have their package manager icon. I mean, I know they have the startup app, but most people disable the startup app, after the first boot. So if you're going to have your own package manager, to me, it would make sense to have your own icon for it down here instead of one that doesn't work. I get it, this isn't necessarily for new users, but on their website, let's see, let's go to CachyOS website. Of course, they are using Google search though, so I don't care, but I mean, you're going to have privacy oriented. Well, I don't know if they said it was privacy oriented or not, but let's see. Now, whether you're a seasoned user or just starting out, CachyOS is ideal. So, I mean, they do technically say it's ideal for both a seasoned Linux user and somebody who's new. Now, again, somebody who's new and having an icon here that doesn't do anything, and then having a software center that you have to actually figure out where it's at and stuff like that, that's not great. If you're going to try to claim to be a newbie distro. So, and I mean, they're not claiming to be straight up newbie, but I mean, not like Zorin or Linux Mint or something like that. But, just one little thing I think would be weird to have an icon that doesn't work there. I know I'm harping on that a lot, but that's just, to me, that seems odd. That being said, though, I don't know if this is just their own, because they did say they have a lot of their own apps, and I'm assuming that's just an in-house system they use for their software manager. It doesn't look too bad though. I mean, it looks pretty good. I can't think. Let's say OBS. Yeah, there's OBS. What repos do they have? There we go. I want to curious what repos they're using. does it say? Oh, I'm still searching. So this is just upgradable packages. I'm curious. Let me look. We got a well, that's cool. They got Alacrity and Console. Both are really good terminal emulators, so that's neat. That's a little. That I hate. The this is just my own personal quirk. I don't like the transparency on the terminals because that's gonna can't see anything. But anyway, do they have Flatpak? They don't have Flatpak installed. Doesn't look like Offset. I doubt they have Snap. So Flatpak and Snap isn't there. Again, with Arch Linux, you don't really need Flatpak or Snap because you're going to have most things. I'm assuming they have. I'm trying to see on here if they have where they're. It says repo, but I don't know if they have their own repo or if they have what they have. Just out of curiosity, let me go to. I don't like the way I don't. Yeah, see now that looks much better as far as I can see. So let's just. I don't know if they have. Yeah, okay, they have their own mirror list. So it looks like they do have their own cache. Okay, yes, there's the repos. Yeah, they have their own repos. I don't know what's all in it. Some of this is just. Oh wow, yeah, they have, I guess, optimized packages for AMD. So that's kind of cool. Well, basically, what that means, that's going to be optimized as far as like the packages are compiled for newer processors, so that they would technically run faster, I suppose, or take advantage of newer technology and newer processors. So I don't know how many packages are actually in this repo versus what's in regular Pac-Man or regular Arch distro, regular Arch repos. But that's interesting. I was just kind of curious what they used there. But yeah, again, like I say, you wanted OBS. Okay, I see what it is. This just searches anything. So if you're having a hard time finding something, it's going to have like anything that would match your search. Whereas this is going to be more concise or whatever. Instead of just showing you everything, it's going to be, obviously you're searching for OBS. So that's kind of cool. I would actually recommend probably using the, now I don't know if they use their own. I don't know if they use their own version of OBS or if they use the AUR version or if they use the standard Arch repo version. I don't have a clue. Just kind of curious. Again, I usually use the Flatpak version. That just seems to work out of the box for most of my needs. So I just use the Flatpak on most, which obviously you could probably install Flatpak. Usually with Arch Linux Flatpak, you don't have to install the repo. It'll automatically install the repo for you. I'm kind of curious if it does. So that way, if you want Flatpaks, you can get them. They're not going to be installed by default, but that's fine. Again, like I say, most popular applications are going to be in your Arch Linux repo anyway. So, you know, everything's going to be here you're going to need, you know, like if you wanted GIMP or if you wanted anything like that. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, I mean, it's a good system. It runs fast, even in a virtual machine. So, I mean, it's cool that they have a lot of things that are optimized, I suppose. So this probably would be a good gaming distro, I suppose. Again, I haven't tested it for gaming, but it might be good for that. It does seem to be very snappy and fast. So I think they do deliver on that claim of being fast. I mean, I can tell just from running how fast it runs in a virtual machine, that it's going to probably run really well on bare metal. So that part's cool. No real complaints other than, minor complaints about the icon missing. That's, again, who cares? It's not a big deal. Just would be a turnoff maybe for people who are new. They wouldn't understand why that doesn't work, but who cares? I mean, you'll eventually figure it out. I wouldn't suspect a person that's brand new to Linux would use something like CachyOS. I wouldn't even recommend any sort of Arch distribution for a brand new user. I just wouldn't. No way I would recommend any sort of Arch Linux for somebody who doesn't at least have some working knowledge of Linux. Unless you're really wanting to just learn and dig in. There's a lot of good information on Arch. It's easy to learn. You will learn a lot by using Arch, but it's not something I would recommend for somebody who's brand new. That being said, though, if somebody who's kind of somewhat tech savvy but wanted to try Linux that was super optimized, this might be a good option. Even if you don't know a whole lot about Linux, it's going to be easy to install Arch, especially if you do want to get into Arch, but you don't want to go the Arch route, like vanilla Arch. Even though nowadays it's a lot easier to install with the Arch install script and all that kind of stuff. That being said, though, I am curious how it will be using the other desktop environments, like how they're set up. This looks like a pretty standard, other than just a few icons and maybe the wallpaper. That might not even be a custom wallpaper. I don't know if that's a default with KDE or not. The KDE install is just looks pretty much what KDE looks like out of the box. So I might do another video on CachyOS trying one of the other desktop environments to see if they actually do any tweaks to it or make it look nice, like say Hyperland or Sway or something like that. Is it actually going to be usable out of the box? Because out of the box, something like Sway and Hyperland, you have to configure yourself, manual configuration files and all that kind of stuff. But a system that would automatically have it configured and usable until you learn how to configure it yourself would be cool if you're wanting to use something like a window manager, tiling window manager, things like that. So I'm curious how they would set that up. That's about all I got today, though. This is just a quick look at the system, and it looks pretty good. The kernel looks good. As far as fast, it's a great Arch-based distro, but it is just an Arch-based distro with their own little repo and their own tweaks to the kernel and some packages. I'm assuming some of the packages are compiled for speed. So again, I'm gonna have to do some more tests as far as like how does it perform with gaming on bare metal with other desktop environments and things like that. So I appreciate you watching. If you like the video, like it and subscribe if you're not subscribed, and if you don't, then don't. I probably won't lose any sleep over it, but I'm just kidding. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.